Joining me now is NFL insider Vic Carucci. Vic, we want to thank you for being on the 530 as we talk about OJ Simpson, who he was, his relation to Buffalo and Western New York. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, well, first of all, he goes down as one of the greatest players ever to wear a Bills uniform, to ever wear an NFL uniform, broke that 2,000-yard barrier. That milestone, of course, stood for so long, and he did it at a time when, of course, most teams knew that he was the real talent that the Bills had, the only player that could make an impact. So they were loaded up to stop him. But what was very interesting, and you remember the Electric Company was the offensive line nickname that came from OJ's success. They turned on the juice. But Chuck Knox, when he became head coach, was going over film of OJ with the Bills. And, of course, OJ would move on to the 49ers where his career would end. But he was watching film, and at one point he turns off the film and says, Electric Company, my blank. OJ did most of that on his own.
Wow. Yeah, he was that guy, definitely on the football field. And when we talk about off the field, he joined the broadcast booth, too, and you got to deal with him there.
Yeah, that's really where I got to know him best, when he was with NBC, and that was at the height of the Bills Super Bowl run. So he was in frequent contact with me, and I think others in Western New York media, to get the full download on that Bills team at the time. Was really doing his homework, and frequent phone calls that we would have. And then at one point he traveled from LA to Western New York before a game to sit down with Larry Felser, the late great columnist of the Buffalo News, and myself in Larry's backyard in Williamsville. And he was interviewing us to talk about that Bills team as, of course, it was ascending and really the dominant story in the NFL.
What was it about OJ? Because he was so personable and he transcended race, right? When it didn't matter who you were, people loved OJ before 1994.
Yeah, look, there was a charm, a charisma that so many of us who can remember his time as a player and commercial endorser, the commercials he did for Hertz Rent-A-Car, right, running through airports. And he had that Q factor, that appeal to all races, to all people, and it was a breakthrough. I think a very handsome guy, again a person who could handle himself so well with a variety of people, whether it was just Joe Fan, corporate America, and of course his dealings with the media. And when he was in town, I mean, it was always the return of a conquering hero. At that time, working for NBC. And then, of course, we know what happened afterward and in the 90s when those murders occurred, and then everything just changed. And there was a shock factor. I do remember someone saying here that it hurts my heart to see this happen, to see OJ Simpson go from the superstar hero to the guy that was involved with these murders.
And we can't forget their names, Nicole Brown Simpson, Ronald Goldman. We never want to forget them. And then after that happened, OJ would still try and be in the mix. He was on social media. I remember one time getting a tweet from him when he was really across the street, because he would come to Buffalo sometimes for some games. What was that like after that happened and he would come to Buffalo to see some of the games? What was the response?
Yeah, it was, of course, to say uncomfortable, I think would be an understatement, to see him kind of back, trying to maybe work his way back into some sort of whatever spotlight, I guess is the term. But when he took to social media and then gave his analysis of the current Bills and would offer thoughts on the league itself, on games, whether it was a Super Bowl or whatever. And I think there were a fair amount of people who would listen to those. but you always had the thought in the back of your mind as to this version of OJ, which wasn't the one, that I remember at his best. And I will say it was very tough for me to kind of wrap my mind around the guy post murders, because I just couldn't look at him or think of him the same way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people share your sentiments. He was definitely a sports legend, but obviously his life ended really in disgrace after the murders of his wife and Ronald Goldman. NFL insider Vic Carucci, we want to thank you so much for joining us to talk about the death of OJ Simpson. Thank you.
All right, Claudine.